Discovery's landing today at the Kennedy Space Center will be the 20th in a row to return, the 20th in a row for shuttle missions to return to the Kennedy Space Center. The last shuttle mission that landed out in California at the Edwards facility was STS 76, the mission of Atlantis to the Mir space station, and that flight was in March of 1996. And now we see the shuttle training aircraft headed down the runway on takeoff roll. Again, Charlie Precourt at the controls, chief of the astronaut office. He'll be flying weather reconnaissance and landing approaches to both ends of the runway and providing that information back to his colleague Rick Sturkow, who's serving as a spacecraft communicator here in Mission Control for weather. And they'll be talking directly on their UHF radios, providing that data back to Wayne Hale, the entry flight director, to be folded into his decision to bring Discovery home today. With the clocks here in the flight control room reset for the deorbit burn for the second landing opportunity at the Kennedy Space Center, and with the burn coming in 1 hour 39 minutes and landing 2 hours and 51 minutes. The plan now is for Charlie Precourt to take off once again in the shuttle training aircraft. About 10 minutes or so from now, he landed to refuel and take a break before he heads back into the air. Wayne Hale, the lead or entry flight director, will tag up with the weather folks once again before Precourt takes off to provide any information to him for what to take a look at in terms of turbulence and crosswinds once again as he flies weather reconnaissance down at the Kennedy Space Center and the shuttle landing facility. The first landing opportunity was waved off when crosswinds continued to show out of limits right up until the point where the decision needed to be made for the deorbit burn. So Wayne Hale waved off the first landing opportunity, and the crew is now set up to support the second landing opportunity to Florida's shuttle landing facility at the Kennedy Space Center. Again, that next landing opportunity in Florida is a little less than 2 hours and 50 minutes from now, with the clocks counting down to that landing time of 6:01 p.m. Central, 7:01 this evening Eastern Time, with the deorbit burn coming about an hour and 15 minutes or so prior to that landing time. With the wave off of the landing opportunity, it means that the second landing opportunity will be a nighttime landing. But that, in fact, is what the crew has trained for, since this mission was scheduled to launch much earlier than it did, which would have had a nighttime landing anyway. So Kurt Brown and his pilot Scott Kelly trained extensively for nighttime landings. If Discovery does land on the next opportunity at the Kennedy Space Center, it would be the 13th night landing in shuttle program history and the 8th night landing at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Of two landing opportunities today. The orbiter in excellent shape, and now the weather conditions have cooperated nicely with the winds trending downward. So the crew officially now given a go for the deorbit burn. That go coming at 4:20 p.m. Central Time, 5:20 this afternoon Eastern Time. This is a point at which Discovery would have touched down on the first landing opportunity, but at the time that the go would have needed to be given for that first opportunity, the winds were out of limits, but the conditions have become quite favorable, and Charlie Precourt, flying a shuttle training aircraft, has also been seeing the turbulence dissipate nicely as well. And in fact, his latest quote was that the conditions are getting nicer with each dive, that meaning each dive to the runway that he was flying. So everything fell into place nicely for this landing opportunity. So Discovery looks to be headed home to the Kennedy Space Center with a landing scheduled for 7:01 this evening Eastern Standard Time. And the deorbit burn coming up now 26.5 minutes from now. Beautiful view looking west from the vehicle assembly building out toward the west of Florida. As the sun begins to set, sunset scheduled about 15 minutes from now. Discovery's return home tonight will be the 8th night landing to the Kennedy Space Center and the 13th night landing in shuttle program history. This also will be the 20th straight shuttle mission to end with a landing at the Kennedy Space Center, and the 48th or the 49th overall landing back in Florida. Mission with the crew now given a go for the deorbit burn. The clock's counting down to that deorbit burn, 24 minutes away. The burn, the twin orbital maneuvering system engines will last for about 4 minutes 45 seconds, dropping Discovery out of orbit for a delta velocity of 508 feet per second. That will put Discovery re-entering the Earth's atmosphere at about 400,000 feet over the Pacific Ocean, with a range to the landing site of about 4,200 miles. The runway of choice has been selected so far as runway 33, which is the southeast and northwest end of the runway. And the plan is for the orbiter to make a right overhead turn of about 232 degrees, setting up for that final approach and landing. One point of interest now that Discovery's landing will be in darkness. The orbiter's pass across the southern United States also will be either at dusk or in darkness, so the plasma trail that will be trailing the orbiter as it speeds through the upper reaches of the atmosphere will be quite visible over areas of central Texas. The Houston area will have an opportunity to see Discovery streaking through the atmosphere as well. If folks looking toward the north, as the orbiter will fly between Houston and Dallas, the maximum elevation in the Houston area will be about 14 or 15 degrees above the horizon, so it'll be a fairly low pass above the horizon, but should be clearly visible if folks have a clear line of sight to the north. The orbiter also will pass over central portions of Louisiana on a southeasterly swing that will take it directly above New Orleans, so folks in that area will get a good view of Discovery as well before it heads out over across the Gulf of Mexico, heading into the Florida Peninsula. The time for Discovery's viewing, at least in the Houston area, is between 5:44 p.m. and 5:46 p.m. Central Time. And points of interest, West Texas ought to be able to see the orbiter around 5:40 or so, and the folks in the Louisiana area and the New Orleans area should be able to see the orbiter somewhere around 5:46. The ground track seen here shows Discovery crossing the Baja Peninsula and much of west, central, and eastern Texas before heading out across Louisiana and the Gulf of Mexico before that final approach to the Kennedy Space Center. Systems. Now less than 1 minute from the deorbit burn. Again, this burn to last 4 minutes 45 seconds, slowing Discovery by 348 miles per hour, which will drop the orbiter into the Earth's atmosphere high above the Pacific Ocean for the final approach to the Kennedy Space Center from the west. The entry interface is a point at which Discovery begins interacting with the atmosphere, and that is at a range of about 4,200 miles out over the Pacific. All systems aboard Discovery in excellent shape and ready to support the deorbit burn. Now 40 seconds away. And the deorbit burn is in progress. Discovery now headed home. The deorbit burn to last 4 minutes 50 seconds. A significant deorbit burn based on Discovery's altitude, the operating altitude of the Hubble Space Telescope. The start of the deorbit burn coming right on time at 4:48 this afternoon Central Time, which should put Discovery on the runway at the Kennedy Space Center at 6:01 p.m. Central, 7:01 this evening Eastern Time. All quiet here in Mission Control as flight controllers watch over the crew's shoulders and all of the systems aboard Discovery. 2.5 minutes remaining in the deorbit burn. One minute remaining in the deorbit burn, all continuing to go very smoothly. 30 seconds remaining.
Discovery Houston, good burn, good residuals, no trim required.
Discovery concurs.
And with that, the deorbit burn complete. Discovery is now on its way home. The orbiter is in a 383 by 31 statute mile orbit, thus allowing Discovery to begin entering the Earth's atmosphere high above the Pacific Ocean. Entry interface, as it's called, coming up about 35 minutes from now. Now that the deorbit burn is completed, the orbiter will be maneuvered to orient the nose forward for the entry sequence, thus placing the underside of the orbiter in the position so that it can basically absorb all of the energy, all of the heat that's generated during the interaction and entry into the Earth's atmosphere. Once the orbiter is maneuvered to a nose-forward position, the remaining propellant in the forward reaction control system will be depleted, as that is no longer required. Are activated. And just under 19 minutes from touchdown now, as Discovery is just about to cross from Mexico into West Texas, heading almost due east now. Current altitude 222,000 feet. Time to touchdown 18 minutes 30 seconds. Discovery's altitude is 42 miles at a range of 1,500 miles from the landing site. Again, the ground track will take Discovery over central Texas, central and southeastern portions of Louisiana and Mississippi before heading out across the Gulf, crossing the Florida coastline north of Tampa, or swinging almost straight across the state in for a final left or right overhead turn of about 230 degrees. So Discovery will head out over the water and then set up for that final approach to runway 33 at the Kennedy Space Center, with landing still scheduled for 6:01 this evening Central, 7:01 p.m. Eastern Time. On board Discovery, the first roll reversal has now been commanded. This roll reversal is left to right again to continue dissipating the speed. Discovery is now traveling 12,300 miles per hour with a range to the landing site of 1,100 miles. Time to touchdown 16 minutes 20 seconds. Discovery's altitude is 206,000 feet as the orbiter passes across central Texas. On its way for the 8th night landing at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida and the 13th night landing in the shuttle program history. Now a beautiful view of Discovery as it streaks across the Texas skies. This view from the Johnson Space Center looking toward the north. Discovery is at an altitude of 197,000 feet, range to the landing site 924 miles. Time to touchdown 15 minutes 15 seconds. Again, this view of Discovery as it streaks through the atmosphere looking from the Johnson Space Center toward the north. "15 minutes from landing, Discovery is 35 miles in altitude, or 188,000 feet, traveling 10,300 miles per hour. Range to the landing site 800 miles. All continuing to go smoothly. Flight Director Wayne Hale watching over the orbiter systems along with the remaining flight controllers here in Mission Control. Discovery now has crossed Louisiana and is now crossing the border between Louisiana and Mississippi. Should cross the Mississippi Gulf Coast around Bay St. Louis and then head out across the Gulf of Mexico. Present altitude is 180,000 feet or 33 miles. Range to the landing site 617 miles. Time to touchdown 13 minutes 25 seconds. Discovery is now traveling 8,000 miles per hour. Time to touchdown 13 minutes. The orbiter is now crossing out over the Gulf of Mexico. Headed toward a touchdown on runway 33 at the Kennedy Space Center. Discovery's mission will be the 49th shuttle flight to end with a landing in Florida. The 49th of 96 shuttle missions. And Discovery is now midway across the Gulf of Mexico. 11 minutes to touchdown. Range to the landing site 340 miles. Discovery's altitude is 154,000 feet. Discovery's in the second roll reversal.
Discovery Houston, energy, ground track, and nav are go. Take TAC in.
Copy. Energy, ground track, nav, go. Taking TAC in.
Discovery's onboard guidance system now reading data from tactical air navigation systems at the landing site. Time to touchdown 10 minutes 20 seconds. Range 270 miles. Standing by for the final roll reversal. This is the third roll reversal, which is a left to right turn. That occurring at Mach 4.4. The orbiter is currently traveling at Mach 6, or about 4,000 miles per hour. Currently at an altitude of 130,000 feet. Range to the landing site 200 miles. Time to touchdown 9 minutes 15 seconds. Discovery is now crossing the Florida coastline on the west coast of the state. Time to touchdown 8 minutes. Traveling 2,800 miles per hour. Discovery's at an altitude of 110,000 feet. Now 125 miles from the landing site. The third and final roll reversal has been commanded by the onboard software.
Disregard.
The two air data probes have been deployed on the orbiter's nose. These taking real-time air samples and providing that to the onboard navigation system. Standing by for control to be transferred to the Terminal Area Energy Management.
Take air data.
Discovery copies, taking air data.
And that air data is now being taken through the air data probes on the orbiter, passing that data in through the guidance system. Time to touchdown 6 minutes 40 seconds. Range from the landing site 16 miles. Discovery's altitude is down to 87,000 feet. And Discovery is now 74 miles from the landing site. By comparison, at this point, a commercial airliner would still be at altitude at about 25,000 feet.
Discovery Houston, nominal energy approaching the hack. Winds are now 2506, peak 9. That'll be all left crosswind. Nominal shoot deploy.
Discovery copies the weather and nominal shoot deploy.
Approaching 5 minutes from touchdown, Discovery's altitude is down to 70,000 feet, or 13 miles, with a range of 70 miles from the landing site. Speed is down to 1,000 miles per hour. Now 4 minutes 30 seconds from touchdown, the range to the landing site 33 miles. Discovery's altitude is 55,000 feet. This view is looking straight out the forward window of the orbiter through the pilot's head-up display system, showing the altitude scrolling by on the right side with the of course, the darkness, this view will come into, we'll see the landing site as the orbiter begins its swing around the heading alignment circle. Commander Kurt Brown has now taken over manual flying of the orbiter as it approaches the heading alignment circle. Miles from the runway now at an altitude of 36,000 feet. At this altitude, a commercial airliner would still be 75 miles from the runway. Discovery is now 17 miles from the runway, completing the wide turn around the heading alignment circle, setting up for the final approach and landing.
Discovery Houston, on at the 180.
Copy, on at the 180.
Infrared cameras capturing Discovery's final approach and landing with about 2 minutes to go to touchdown. And range from the landing site 13 miles.
Discovery Houston, on at the 90. Tire message is a deucer, no action. It may toggle on.
Copy, on at the 90.
Under 2 minutes to touchdown now. Discovery's altitude 17,000 feet. At this point in the flight of a commercial airliner, the landing gear would be down.
Roger, Discovery field in sight.
And Commander Kurt Brown reports he can see the runway. The next step will be the pre-flare maneuver to set up for the final approach and landing, with pilot Scott Kelly putting the landing gear down at about the altitude of 300 feet. Commercial airliners landing gear would be put down about 2 minutes out, with the altitude being anywhere between 2,000 and 3,000 feet by comparison. The orbiter's sync rate is down to 124 feet per second, or miles per hour, or 177 feet per second at a 19-degree glide slope. A commercial airliner would be at about a 2-degree glide slope. Pre-flare maneuver now at the and the landing gear is now down and locked. Main gear touchdown. And nose gear touchdown. Discovery rolling out on runway 33 at the Kennedy Space Center following a 3.25 million mile journey to restore the Hubble Space Telescope back to full service. This is the 20th landing in a row at the Kennedy Space Center and the 49th to return to Florida in the history of the Space Shuttle program.
Discovery, we'll stop.
Roger, we'll stop, Discovery. Welcome back to Earth after a fantastic flight. We have no deltas. We'll meet you on page 5-3 for the post-landing.
Copy, 5-3, no deltas.
Discovery now has completed its 27th voyage in space, the 96th mission in the shuttle program. The convoy team now moving into place around the orbiter as it sits on the concrete runway of the shuttle landing facility at the Kennedy Space Center. Crew members now will go through safing procedures for the next 30 to 40 minutes or so before climbing out of the orbiter to ensure that Discovery is in a safe configuration before handing the vehicle over to the convoy team.
Houston, we need RAD reconfig now on page 5-8 at the top of the page.
Copy, page 5-8, in work.
The venting that you see on either side of the tail is the APU steam vents, those located on either side of the vertical tail of the orbiter, as the auxiliary power units are venting the steam out those vents. If folks remember, Steve Smith commented from high atop the Hubble Space Telescope looking down at those that he had never seen them from that angle before during the third spacewalk of the mission.
ammonia activation. Should be ammonia controller Bravo to secondary on.
Houston, that is complete.
Roger, Discovery.
And we'll be standing by the start block if required.
Roger, Discovery.
Houston, ET umbilical doors are coming open.
Roger, Discovery. Max is watching.
This is Mission Control Houston with the landing times for Discovery. Discovery's main gear touched the runway 33 at the Kennedy Space Center at 6 o'clock even and 47 seconds Central Standard Time. That's at a mission elapsed time of 7 days, 23 hours, 10 minutes, 47 seconds. The nose gear touchdown at 6 o'clock and 58 seconds Central Time. At a mission elapsed time of 7 days, 23 hours, 10 minutes, and 58 seconds. And the wheel stop is reported at 6 o'clock, 6:01 and 34 seconds Central Time. At a mission elapsed time of 7 days, 23 hours, 11 minutes, and 34 seconds. So again, Discovery's mission ended at 6:01 p.m. Central Time, with main gear touching down at 6 o'clock and 47 seconds. At official mission elapsed time of 7 days, 23 hours, 10 minutes, and 47 seconds. Crew on board now continuing through the post-landing safing of the orbiter, and that will go on for the next 30 or 40 minutes before the crew is given a go to exit the vehicle for their routine medical examinations, and then eventually a walk-around of the orbiter, which is expected by all 7 crew members. We do expect comments from the crew members by a microphone that will be set up near the orbiter. And that should be coming up in the next hour to hour and 15 minutes or so. And we also will hold the traditional post-landing news conference from the Johnson Space Center in that time frame. And if one or the other is going on, we obviously will hold the press conference until the walk-around, or if the press conference is underway and the walk-around by the crew occurs during the press conference, we will obviously replay the crew's walk-around of the orbiter after their medical checkups.
Houston Discovery, the RJDs are all outside hatch, drag chute, and landing gear are safe.
And Discovery Houston, we copy. Thank you. repositioning to the rain drain position.
Copy the rain drain position.
This is Mission Control Houston. We're watching Discovery through infrared camera as the crew on board continues to go through safing procedures inside the orbiter while the convoy team continues to assess the health of the vehicle from the outside. And while we continue to watch over the crew's shoulders through the safing procedures, we'll take an opportunity to take time out and look at the different landing views that were available and recorded from the Kennedy Space Center during the final minutes of the Discovery's approach and landing.
Houston Discovery, we're complete with SSME repo.
Discovery Houston, we concur. You have a go for APU hydraulic shutdown.
Copy, go for APU high shutdown.
Discovery Houston, you have a go to DOF suits.
Discovery copies, go to DOF suits.
Discovery Houston, you are go for extended power up and go for vent door purge positioning.
Okay, Discovery's copies, go for extended power up and go for vent door purge positioning. And Houston, APU hard shutdown is complete.
Roger, Discovery.
Houston, Discovery post-landing MPS3 config and work.
Discovery Houston, booster copies and is watching.
Houston, vent door purge positioning is complete.
Discovery Houston, we concur. Discovery Houston, we'd like you to take GPC 5's mode switch to standby for the dump.
Okay, take GPC number 5 to standby. Here goes.
And Discovery Houston, we're ready for GPC 5, mode switch, back to run.
Copy, GPC 5, back to run, here it comes. And Houston Discovery, we're ready to take water pump loop number 1 to on if you concur.
Discovery Houston, we concur. We are ready.
Houston Discovery, we show all actions complete except for egress, and we're ready to head it over to ASP if you're ready.
In Discovery Houston, we concur. All actions are complete. We'd just like to get a con check with the ASP before you sign off.
That's affirmative. We'll stand by. I just want to make sure that you do what we want.
Roger, Kurt. Thanks for the tag up. And Discovery Houston for the ASP. Say again.
Houston ASP, comp check.
And Discovery ASP, we had you loud and clear that time. Thank you. Good check. Discovery Houston, we show all crew actions complete as you noted, and we are ready for crew egress.
And Houston Discovery crew egress is in work.
And Discovery ASP from Houston, expect about 10 minutes prior to the ammonia reconfig.
As copies.
This is Mission Control Houston. While safing of the orbiter continues, I'd like to pass along that the post-landing news conference from the Johnson Space Center is currently scheduled for 7:15 this evening Central Time, 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time. And the participants for that briefing will be Shuttle Program Manager Ron Dittemore. He'll be joined by Entry Flight Director Wayne Hale, who has overseen not only the launch of Discovery on this mission, but also the landing. And as soon as the orbiter is turned over to the ground operations team at the Kennedy Space Center, these two gentlemen will be able to leave the flight control room and head over to the press room. So the approximate start time for the post-landing news conference is 7:15 p.m. Central Time, 8:15 this evening Eastern Time. On board, the astronauts are continuing to wrap up safing activities of the orbiter and begin climbing out of the orbiter and into the crew transport vehicle for routine medical checkups before hopefully coming out and conducting a walk around of the vehicle, saying a few words before departing for the astronaut crew quarters. This is Mission Control Houston. We're hearing words now that all 7 astronauts are now off of Discovery and in the crew transport vehicle. The safing operations by the crew of Discovery is completed, and very shortly Flight Director Wayne Hale will be able to hand over the safing operations to the ground operations team at the Kennedy Space Center. Discovery's mission, again, very successful. Servicing of the Hubble Space Telescope for the 3rd time. The landing time for Discovery, 6:01 p.m. Central, 7:01 this evening Eastern Time on the 2nd of 3 landing opportunities available today. And all on that 2nd landing opportunity went very smoothly. So with that, we'll sign off from the Johnson Space Center and from Mission Control and hand over the ground safing operations of Discovery to Bruce Buckingham and the folks at the Kennedy Space Center. This is Mission Control, Houston.
This is ground control at Kennedy Space Center as we continue with our safing operations following our successful landing of Discovery about 45 minutes ago. Landing occurred just shortly after 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. This was the second opportunity to land tonight. The first opportunity was waved off due to high winds, crosswind component violations at the shuttle landing facility. However, as the sun dropped in the sky, the winds dropped as well, and we were able to come in on our second opportunity. The crew is off the vehicle at this point. They are in the crew transport vehicle where they are in the process of removing their launch and reentry suits. It's a lot easier to do it in the CTV as opposed to trying to do it in the orbiter itself. Now that the orbiter is on the ground, again, safing operations have commenced, and the vehicle is being prepped for its post-landing operations. Along with the crew transport vehicle, other KSC landing convoy operations have been stationed around the orbiter. They've been on call since the launch of Discovery. The primary function of the Space Shuttle Recovery Convoy is to provide immediate service to the orbiter after landing, also to assist crew egress and to prepare the orbiter for towing to the orbiter processing facility. Towing to the OPF is set to begin at about midnight tonight. Following that, the residuals of the cryogenics will be offloaded, as well as the residuals of the hypergolics that were used in the orbiter's maneuvering systems. All that will be offloaded prior to actually turning the vehicle off, powering it down as we approach the end of the year. The shuttle landing facility where the vehicle touched down tonight was built back in 1975. It is 300 feet wide and about 15,000 feet long with 1,000-foot overruns on each end. The strip runs southeast to northwest and is located about 3 miles northwest of the vehicle assembly building. Again, our convoy commander is taking charge of the transfer operations as we continue to safe the vehicle in anticipation of a tow to the orbiter processing facility in just over 4 hours. Meanwhile, we're standing by as the crew have entered the crew transport vehicle where they are removing their launch and entry suits. And we anticipate that they'll be climbing down the stairs from that CTV in a matter of a few minutes. Typically, the standard process is for the crew members to walk around the orbiter to inspect the vehicle that was their home for the past 8 days. And we also anticipate that the crew will make use of a microphone that's been set up at the shuttle landing facility where they can make a brief statement, each of them perhaps making a brief statement regarding their most recent mission. Once that's complete, the astronauts will be driven to their crew quarters back in the crew transport vehicle, and they will visit with their families back at the operations and checkout building where their crew quarters are. They will undergo a number of relatively unobtrusive physicals prior to opportunity for a shower and a snack, and then some well-deserved rest. The convoy consists of 20 to 30 specially designed vehicles or units and a team of some 150 trained personnel who a safety assessment team is also at the shuttle landing facility. They're dressed in protective garb with breathing apparatus. They use vapor detectors to obtain vapor level readings and to test for possible explosive or toxic gases such as hydrogen or other residuals such as hydrazine or ammonia. The vapor dispersal unit, which is a mobile wind machine, blows away any potentially dangerous gases if high levels are detected and the winds are calm. The winds tonight have not been very calm up until now, and this particular unit is not being utilized at this time. Since no hydrogen was present during the initial assessments of our vapor dispersal unit, the convoy operations have continued, and they are now within full reach of the vehicle. The crew transport vehicle has again been placed against the orbiter and has since backed away from the orbiter as all crew members are now on board and in the process of removing their launch and reentry suits. Other vehicles that are part of the convoy are purge air vehicles. They provide cool and humidified air conditioning to the payload bay of the orbiter. And other activities are in work to remove any residual explosive or toxic fumes. The purge of the vehicle normally occurs within about 45 minutes after the orbiter comes to a full stop, and that should be wrapping up momentarily. In addition to convoy operations on the runway, a KSC engineering test team monitors data from the orbiter from a station in one of the Launch Control Center's firing rooms. After the orbiter handover to Kennedy Space Center, this team is enabled to issue commands to the orbiter to configure specific orbiter systems for the tow to the orbiter processing facility. Again, that tow is scheduled to begin at about midnight tonight Eastern Time. Once in the orbiter processing facility, preparations will begin early next year for Discovery's next mission. Again, Discovery landed tonight at Kennedy Space Center. Main gear touchdown occurred at 47 seconds after 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, with a mission elapsed time of 7 days, 23 hours, 10 minutes, and 47 seconds. Landing on the second opportunity, the orbiter traveled since launch 3,267 statute miles. again, a post-mission press conference from the Johnson Space Center is scheduled to begin at 8:15 Eastern Time. Any time now, however, we expect that our 7 crew members should be disembarking from their crew transport vehicle and doing their standard walk-around of the orbiter as it sits at the shuttle landing facility at Kennedy Space Center. Whichever happens to commence first, that event will, of course, continue uninterrupted. And once the event is concluded, then we will go to either the crew walk-around or to the press conference and begin that. That press conference, again, is scheduled to begin at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time and will be coming to us from the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. And again, we have live pictures of the crew transport vehicle as it is being backed away from the orbiter with the 7 crew members on board. Also on board are members of our medical team who have been giving the astronauts a very quick physical, asking if they're okay, and of course all reports are coming back that the astronauts are in good shape. No reports of any discomforts or concerns at all. We anticipate that the astronauts will be leaving the transport vehicle in the next few moments to make a brief walk around of the orbiter and also to make a statement into a microphone that has been set up at the shuttle landing facility. This statement will substitute for an earlier scheduled crew press conference, which has now been canceled in lieu of this statement. And that should be coming up in the next few minutes. Coming up in about 10 minutes is the post-mission press conference from the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. We're targeting that to begin at 8:15 if we still have not seen the astronauts depart their crew transport vehicle. All in all, everything continues to go according to schedule. Once the astronauts depart the shuttle landing facility, they'll be driven to their crew quarters at the operations and checkout building, where they will visit with their family members, who have been, many of whom have been on hand for the landing tonight. They will undergo additional physicals, then have an opportunity to have a snack and some free time, followed by a good night's rest before they are awakened tomorrow and then flown back to the Johnson Space Center in Houston, where they will be able to spend the rest of the holidays with their families at their homes.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
And at this time at the Kennedy Space Center, we are still awaiting the astronauts' departure from the crew transport vehicle. We do expect that the vehicle will be lowered on its hydraulic lifts over the next few minutes, and we anticipate seeing the crew come down the stairway that is at the end of the vehicle. Also, it appears that our press conference from the Johnson Space Center will not be coming up as we expected at 15 after the hour. The flight director remains on station in the Mission Control Center, but once he is off station and makes his way over to the press room at the Johnson Space Center, then he will be prepared to begin that press conference. That will be TBD until we get a more firm time as to when that will occur. Meanwhile, Orbiter Discovery continues to sit at the shuttle landing facility following a successful landing at 1 minute past 7 o'clock Eastern Time tonight. The convoy has been positioned around the vehicle, and purge systems are attached to the vehicle at this time. Cooling systems are also attached to the orbiter's payload bay and the crew compartment. Everything continues to go well and on schedule. No concerns regarding the vehicle in any form or manner are being addressed at this time. As we await the astronauts' departure from the crew transport vehicle, again, once they do depart the vehicle, we anticipate that they will walk around the orbiter and make a statement into a microphone, perhaps all of them making a statement to describe their feelings following this highly successful 8-day mission to service the Hubble Space Telescope. And we have our first view of the crew as they are now coming out of their crew transport vehicle, being greeted by Associate Administrator for Spaceflight Joe Rothenberg, as well as other members from NASA administration and management, all greeting our astronauts stepping foot for the first time on ground at Kennedy Space Center since they left 8 days ago. Scott Kelly, our pilot, just completing his first flight into orbit. Tom McMonagle is talking to one of our astronauts, Mike Foale, it appears. McMonagle is manager of launch landing integration at Kennedy Space Center. Bill Reedy, the back side of him, as well as Joe Rothenberg from headquarters. And standing behind Mr. Rothenberg is our Kennedy Space Center Director, Roy Bridges. All out on this chilly Florida evening to greet our astronauts as they have made a successful landing here at Kennedy Space Center, completing their 8-day mission to service the Hubble Space Telescope. Astronauts are now moving over toward the vehicle, the orbiter Discovery, taking a brief tour of the underbelly of the orbiter. They'll be looking at landing gear, the tiles that protected the vehicle as it made its re-entry. Even after being on the ground for just over an hour, the nose cone of the orbiter can still be felt, and it's somewhat warm still, although it has experienced temperatures in excess of 3,000 degrees upon entry. It has cooled off sufficiently where they can actually place their hands up on it and not be burnt. This thermal protection system that covers the entire shuttle comes in many different forms. As we can see on the bottom of the orbiter here, the individual tiles that can sustain very high temperatures as well and dissipate that temperature without allowing it to come up into the orbiter itself. Astronauts will look at the main landing gear as well, looking at the components that allow the gear to drop down, touching the tires, seeing no significant damage to the tires as it rolled out across the shuttle landing facility's concrete runway. On board this mission were, again, Kurt Brown, our commander, Steve Smith was mission specialist, John Grunsfield, mission specialist, Mike Foale, Claude Nicollier, who originally comes from Switzerland, one of the European Space Agency's astronauts, as well as Jean-Francois Clairvoy from France, an ESA astronaut, Scott Kelly, our pilot, greeting the convoy team who have come out to safe the vehicle. We expect over the next few minutes the astronauts will make their way over to a microphone that has been set up at the shuttle landing facility, and we anticipate hearing their comments following their successful touchdown today.
Merry Christmas. Good job. Oh yeah, he's something like that.
Scott Kelly, the pilot on this flight. This was his first mission into space. This mission did last for almost 8 full days. The official end of mission time was 7 days, 23 hours, 10 minutes. and they traveled 3,267,000 statute miles in orbit. After that lengthy journey, every one of the astronauts seemed to be walking around without any troubles at all. After spending 8 days in weightlessness, they do take a few minutes to get reacclimated to the effects of gravity. They have had a very brief physical, and they'll have a more extensive physical once they get back to their crew quarters, and then, of course, once they get back to their homes in Houston. Again, we have Scott Kelly. Our pilot. Associate Administrator for Spaceflight, Joe Rothenberg, speaking with 3 of our astronauts. He has come down from Washington today to greet the crew as they have ended their successful mission to service the Hubble Space Telescope. The next Hubble Space Telescope servicing mission is currently scheduled for the year 2001. Many of the members of this crew had already been to Hubble at least once. Once again, we expect that the crew members, once they complete their walk-around tour of the orbiter following landing, will be making their way over to a microphone on the shuttle landing facility to make brief statements. Once that is complete, they will be driven back to their crew quarters to visit their family and to take a shower and have a snack perhaps before then being allowed to begin their crew rest period. Once that's complete tomorrow, we expect that they will be departing for Ellington Field in Houston, Texas. That departure should occur sometime in the early to mid-afternoon Eastern Time. This is the final mission of 1999. This is the third mission of this year. We have about 7 missions currently scheduled for next year. Of course, all launches taking place from Kennedy Space Center. All landings are planned for Kennedy Space Center. However, if a landing cannot be made at Kennedy Space Center for weather reasons, then an alternate landing site at Edwards Air Force Base is always available to us. We have not been required to make use of that facility in California. This is the 20th mission that we have landed successfully at Kennedy Space Center, 20th in a row that we have landed successfully at the Kennedy Space Center, and it is the 49th landing at Kennedy in the history of the Space Shuttle program. Our landing tonight was somewhat out of the ordinary as far as a landing at nighttime goes. This is only the 8th time that we landed at Kennedy Space Center at night, and only the 13th time that we've actually landed at night at either location here at Kennedy or at Edwards Air Force Base in California. In fact, all 3 of the missions that we landed this year, STS-96, STS-93, and this mission, STS-103, all 3 of those missions ended in a nighttime landing at Kennedy Space Center. Another interesting note regarding nighttime landings, the past 4 missions have actually ended in a nighttime landing at Kennedy Space Center. So nighttime landings are becoming more and more frequent as we continue to fly. And once again, we anticipate that the crew will be soon making their way to the microphone. In fact, it looks like they're coming right now, heading toward the microphone to make a brief statement. Again, this statement will be used in lieu of a crew press conference, which had earlier been scheduled, but now will be canceled because of the crew's ability to make a statement at the shuttle landing facility. We expect Kurt Brown, the commander, to make the first statement.
We're going to play it this way. After we get through doing this, we'll move the microphone stand and we'll get a picture. George will take some photos of it. Okay? And again, everybody's going to say a few words, okay? Well, I assume the microphone's on. Well, first of all, I'd like to wish everyone a happy holidays. I sure hope y'all had a good holiday, because we definitely had one aboard Discovery during the servicing mission. We can't say enough good things about the vehicle, enough good things about our team. We brought Discovery back tonight, and I don't think it has a single malfunction in the whole vehicle. It was truly amazing. We did not work a single thing. So that goes to the folks here at Kennedy Space Center that has done such a great job in preparing the vehicle over the last few weeks and months. We really do thank you for that. We know it's near the holidays, and we appreciate that hard work. And we'd like to thank the NASA team that trained us and the Goddard team that put the whole mission together and made it all work. We had the best Christmas we could have, because we gave the telescope back to the science community and the astronomers in tip-top shape, and hopefully it'll be doing science here in just the next few weeks. So we want to thank everyone for that, and each and every one of you had a part in this mission, not just us 7, but each and every one of you, the NASA and the contractor team, had a part of that mission, and we want to thank each and every one of you for that great support and dedication and attention to detail. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate a little bit what Kurt said, and that I'd really like to thank everyone that worked over the holidays so hard to make this mission such a success. And also, from my perspective, it's real humbling to be such a part of a great team, to be able to participate in this capacity or any capacity in such a great space program that we have. Thank you.
We got an excellent training at JSC, a perfect condition orbiter here at KSC. The Goddard folks prepared the Hubble very well for capture and for servicing, and that's why we had a very successful mission. Thanks to all of you.
Well, I'd like to say that we worked on 2 really great vehicles on this flight. The shuttle you've heard about was just fantastic. There was nothing wrong with it. It just shows the true dedication that everyone put in the several months leading up to the flight, so I'd like to thank everyone for that. And the Hubble Space Telescope, we were trained very thoroughly by the folks at Goddard and Johnson for that. Our goal was to put in 13 black boxes into the vehicle. We did that, and we were just so well trained that everything turned out really well. So again, thanks to all those teams, and Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you.
Well, I think astronomy is one of the most incredible things that people can do. It's all about exploration. It's about the human spirit. It's about finding out where we've come from, where we're going, what we're made of, and we're all very excited. I'm extremely excited that we were able to play a part in getting Hubble back into shape, and it could have only happened with all the teamwork and all the cooperation, international cooperation that we have in our NASA space program. And I just want to extend my thanks to everybody who played a part, all the folks who trained us to get us here. Thank you very much.
I'm Mike Fall, and I'd like to say that we shouldn't forget, really, that this is almost the end of the century. This is the end of a millennium. And we started this century dreaming about leaving the planet Earth, leaving the Earth period, and flying. And human beings have achieved that and started that in the United States of America. I think it's fantastic that we're rounding out this century with such a mission as Hubble. I think the effort that went in this year to prepare the orbiters, make them safer, make them better vehicles for the next century, and to continue our fantastic science program with the Hubble Space Telescope is a great way to round out this year. And I think it will make us all be innovated in the coming years to further build our International Space Station with our partners and work better together, work better with each other's organizations and with each other's countries. And so I'm very proud that we're able to do this, and I'm also very pleased and relieved that we pulled it off. I want to thank everybody for taking part in all of that. Thank you.
I think I speak for the whole crew if I say that these were probably the most busy but the most gratifying 8 days of our lives. This was really extremely rewarding for us to be able to accomplish the objectives of the mission, which was to bring back Hubble to an operational status. And we look forward to see the results of this early next year, early next century, when the first images from Hubble will come back to us. I would like to express from the whole crew and from my employer, the European Space Agency, also the employer of Jean-François Clairvoy. By the way, I express my gratitude to NASA that 2 European Space Agency astronauts were flown on this mission. I would like to express my gratitude to NASA, the Kennedy Space Center personnel who prepared a vehicle that was absolutely flawless during the whole mission. Also Johnson Space Center, Flight Control and Training, Goddard Space Flight Center. I really express our gratitude. Thank you very much, and Happy New Year to all of you.
Again, thank you everyone for meeting us tonight, and we're looking forward to going to see Hubble again real soon.
All of our astronauts now taking one last opportunity for a photo shoot in front of their vehicle, Discovery, as they now are preparing to make their way back to their crew transport vehicle, which will carry them back to their crew quarters, where they will meet with their families, and they'll be given an opportunity to get some rest tonight before going back to their homes in Houston tomorrow. of our astronauts are in good shape. They've been out of the transport vehicle for some time now. They've been out of the orbiter now for almost an hour. And again, they were in the process of saying their last goodbyes to some of the closeout team members, as well as taking the last opportunity for their picture to be taken in front of Space Shuttle Discovery. And now that the goodbyes have been said, we're going to transfer over to the Houston Space Center, or the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, where we have standing by our participants for our post-mission press conference.